Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Politics on the Hindu's YouTube channel. As you know, this is the show where we go behind the stories, making the headlines in domestic politics. But an important part of democratic politics and domestic politics, of course, is representation. And today we will be talking about a new book that has come out that shows a different light on the whole issue of representation. It's missing from the House, Muslim women in the Lok Sabha. And here to talk to me about it are the authors of the book. We have Rasheed Kidwai. He's an author, a political commentator, and a journalist. And Ambar Kumar Ghosh, who is a political analyst. The two of them together have come up with this book, which gives us, apart from very, very startling statistics about actually the lack of representation of Muslim women in India's electoral democracy, also the lives and the narratives behind each of these 18 women MPs that they have chronicled in their book. In fact, these 18 MPs are all we have in terms of the representation by Muslim women in the Lok Sabha since India's independence. Now, the way that we will do it is I'll put a question and both of you can take a call on who wants to answer and what. And if both of you want to answer, we can go turn by turn. So I'm just putting my first question out there to you both and welcome once again. Now, with just 18 Muslim women among the 690 or so women representatives that India's Lok Sabha has seen since the 1952, the first democratic election that India had, what was the first and foremost the reason that you felt that was behind this kind of lack of representation? Apart from this very timely quote that you put in the book, I think in one of the narratives that I read, one of the profiles that you did was this quote by the former president of Chile, Michelle Bachelet. And she said that for me, the better democracy is where women do not only have the right to vote, to elect, but to be elected. So where is it that you felt that the lack happened, that we have such little representation from women and Muslim women, especially in India's parliament?
Nisla, let me thank you and the Hindu podcast for inviting us. And you see, this book was difficult book to write in a way, and that's why I would want to bring Amber to answer, because you see, there is a lot of sort of research or scholarly work that is done by Ambar Ghosh. He's a PhD scholar from Jadavpur University. Nisla, we have known each other. I'm a storyteller. So some of the stories that figure in the book, I have the ownership. So over to you, Amber, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, it's a very important question, and I think very difficult one to answer. Woman representation in Indian politics, definitely it is a very difficult terrain, because if you look at woman representation in general in parliamentary politics, it's quite low. So it's barely 14 to 15% in the parliament. It's even worse at the state level. Now, if we come to the Muslim community, the situation becomes even more gloomy, because there they are fighting the double jeopardy, right? One, of course, facing disadvantage as women, and again the second layer of hurdle comes from being from the Muslim community, where they are also facing the social prejudice and the community level hindrances there as well. But I think when we thought about the book, Rashid sir and I, the preponderant point that we thought of was, of course, the glaring and shocking data about so less Muslim women MPs in parliament. That's, of course, has been the
there are Lok Sabhas, in the 18 Lok Sabhas that we've had, where there have been no representation from Muslim women also.
Yeah,
very glaring statistics, in fact.
There has been 4 times there was no Muslim woman at all in the Lok Sabha. So of course that was the trigger point, definitely. But the central motivation has been to bring to the limelight the lives of the political lives of the 18 women who actually made it to the Indian Parliament. Fighting patriarchy, social prejudice, political turbulence, and all of that. So navigating all of these stumbling blocks and making a mark in India's parliamentary democracy is something Rashid sir and I, we sincerely felt that this stories needs to be told.
These were actually quite exciting to read. I mean, and let me tell the viewers, these are all Lok Sabha MPs. These are people who have actually fought elections and made it to the House. These are not part of the patronage network of political parties where you get through the Rajya Sabha. The party decides to kind of accommodate you and gives you a membership in the upper house. You've been given a party ticket and you've had to fight it out, possibly with very combative men, also many people who may not want you to succeed, etc., etc. Now, coming to the second question, I said, none of these 18 women are from the South. See, I mean, I'm from the South, and there are many male Muslim MPs who have come forward from those areas. There is a lot of politics that revolves around Muslim communities there, and I've also seen that a lot of the socioeconomic levels are also quite favorable in the South among Muslims that compared to the North. So how do you explain this lack of representation of women from the Muslim community in the South?
So, Nisla, to my mind, this is a story of a paradox. India, and we keep saying, whatever you say about India, the opposite is equally true. You look at the Northeast, there are a lot of matriarchal societies are there. Political representation, only recently in that assembly election, some of the women got elected from Nagaland and Mizoram and etc. Because normally, if you go and see their day-to-day society, it's women actually hold a lot of respect and command in that order. And similarly, that the same story is about Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, etc. So this is also a story.
In judiciary and other institutions, but in terms
precisely.
of, yeah.
They are in judiciary. I mean, the Supreme Court, women Supreme Court judge came from Tamil Nadu. There are so many examples we can give. It's also a story of political power, political parties, and the kind of internal dynamics. We have had, political parties which are headed by women, or women were in control and command. In case of AIDMK, in case of Congress under Sonia Gandhi. BSP under Mayawati, but that does not mean, actually the real question that is not been addressed in this book, and that's why I feel this work is incomplete, is about women in politics in generally. So there is no sort of a great quantity. Forget about the quality of it. Here, what we are talking about, 18 women, 13 or 14 are from dynasty or dynastic background. So one can argue in favor of, I mean, South being, so to say, devil's advocate, that there was no, this kind of thing was there, where there was a sort of opportunity for a Muslim male member who came up and made big, and his, spouse getting in. So in case of Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, who was a president, his wife wedded Mickey Mia, the Begum Rampur, and so many examples I can go on giving.
Sheikh Abdullah Saab's wife, Farooq Abdullah.
So there it didn't happen. It happened when it came to Jafar Sharif and Koya and others. Their sons, and that kind of patriarchy played some kind of role. So that is inadequate answer, actually.
Yeah, and I found it because when I entered the profession and started covering politics, there were a few women, but very few, and one always kind of fitted in some sort of a token role, which was highly resented by many of us. And we want a well-populated sort of situation there, and we don't want to be token for any sort of a situation. But sometimes that is the only alternative you have for any kind of representation. If somebody decides, okay, we need to have some women there, that's it. Get somebody who's qualified, and things like that. I think the southern parties, I don't think, made any of those kind of choices either. And in fact, it's a very interesting day to be raising this issue of dynasty, because today BRS MLC K Kavita has been suspended from her party and for raising her voice against her brother. And there is, an obvious choice from the father's side to choose the brother over the sister in terms of political legacy. So these are things that are working out. It seems that women just get to hold the baby and the bathwater once nobody else wants it, or nobody else seems to be around to hold on to the situation. Amber, what is your view on this southern thing. If you have a view on what is it that has prevented women from the Muslim community from the south from making the uh, cut.
Yes, I think, yeah, just adding to what Rashid sir already told, uh, of course, there are also some nuances there. When we talk about woman representation and the relationship of woman leadership with party, there are quite a few barriers, structural barriers, because getting a ticket and winning elections is one thing, but being able to have a conducive situation to actually enter politics, reach that pedestal from where you can actually bargain for tickets, and then of course go for this kind of taking it forward to actually contest a parliamentary seat. All of that, I think there is a lot of patriarchal and male dominated structures playing there. And I think two myths which this book to some extent it rather uh, questions, if not debunks, is that first, of course, socio-economic parameters or socio-economic development does not necessarily guarantee more conducive situation for women to actually participate in politics, or maybe in any sphere for that matter. So there are many other factors that comes into play, and that plays a very, very important role. Second issue, I think both of you mentioned about dynastic politics. One very interesting part, that dynastic politics, of course, there's now a lot of literature as well, a lot of research being done. There is Kanchan Chanda's very famous book on dynastic politics. Yeah. So she also observes very interestingly that dynasty sort of plays as an informal quota for women to actually enter politics. Having said that, that's true. But the another very important aspect here that we tried to pick up in our book is that many a times dynasties or dynastic politicians, they are always kind of disparaged for having that privilege, right? But for women, of course, it gives privilege to enter politics,
and
of course.
protection,
So the first step,
and
yeah,
protection of the
of
name
course,
from character
protection,
assassination,
yeah, of course, all
and
of that,
resources and networks that you can call.
yeah. So the precisely, so all of that definitely matters, but once they are in politics, they also have to equally confront a lot of challenges, because a lot of resistance come from their own family members, as you have already mentioned. You cited an example. So and of course the entire party machinery, which is most of the time very much male dominated. So woman dynast also needs to, it also becomes a Herculean task for them to actually establish their political potential and actually make it to the highest pinnacle of political position. So of course, so I think this presumption that dynastic access is coterminous with absolute privilege. I think this also needs to be looked at with a pinch of salt, because all of our dynasts here, all of our dynastic women MPs here, 13 of them, if you look at all of their profiles, they had to face a tremendous amount of political challenges. If we simply look at Akbar Jahan's political journey, or Ikra Hassan's political journey, or Tabassum Hassan's political journey, they all are very established, well entrenched dynasts, but they had to face massive amount of barriers to make it and survive in Indian politics. I think
That's a very
that is one point
interesting
about
point
dynasty.
about quota, women's quota, dynastic privilege being seen as a quota. Why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very interesting point to have made. Rashida and Amber, both of you, I wanted to ask you that, in the last few years, we have seen many legislations like triple talaq or the Waqf amendment, which the government has said has been for the betterment of, widows and widows with children, etc. All of these have been debated and cleared from, Lok Sabha with minimal sort of voices from Muslim women. These are aimed at Muslim women, and we never heard much of the voices that came out. And we can, in fact, take it back to the 86, where the Shahbano thing, the Muslim women's maintenance, everything had come out. At that time also, it became a debate between the BJP and the Congress over the notion of secularism and rule of law, etc. But in terms of just women's voices, we had, of course, NGOs and activists speaking about triple talaq and these issues. But in the House, we didn't get to hear any of it. Most of it was men deciding on things that have an effect on women. How do you look at it? How do you think the debate would have been any different had there been adequate representation?
I'm glad, Nisla, and I must compliment you for raising this issue. This is a very important thing, and you hit a nail. See, this is a problem. I think Muslim women, in general, face, indifference, a colossal amount of indifference from the political class, from decision makers, from everyone, even I would say section of media also, and that is a real problem. When we talk about, you made a fleeting reference about Shahbano. With Shahbano case, Rajiv Gandhi was acting as per, so to say, the community interest, etc. But still, the leading women of that era, Muslim women, whether it was Mohsina Kidwai or Najma Hepatullah, you read their memoirs and all, they say they were not consulted. Who were the people who were deciding? It was, Arif Muhammad Khan and Ziaud Aman Ansari and MJ Akbar and those kind of, that, Purush Pradhan Samaj, that male dominated patriarchy, and that continues. So, entire triple talaq debate, we didn't hear from the Muslim community, from All India Muslim Personal Board, or any of those NGO forums about what was the view about, and that is, and of course, generally, political parties actually have a very little understanding of community affairs. They don't want to dive deep, and therefore, I want to even make a reference about what you were saying about South. See, you look at IUML, you look at Majlis, Ittihad Muslim, this thing, MIM, they all started off as a very sort of, male dominated, I would say, misogynic kind of thing. Of course, they are evolving, and a sense of gender parity is coming in the entire political class, and Muslim political parties are not exception. The DMK and many of the, alliance partners that were there, powerful AIDMK, DMK, JDS, they went with the tokenism that we are going to give so many seats to the parties, and their Muslim seat, and the Muslim seats of winnability comes in. So all these factors actually come into place. Becomes very complicated, and there is a kind of justification. But behind all these things, as we know, and that is the reason. And another debate I can tell you why Narendra Modi government in direct cash benefit is also benefiting in a way politically, because women are getting a sense of empowerment, even if it means 2,000 rupees. Now that didn't happen in terms of making any kind of substantial political decision about their own life, sexuality, reproductive health, marriage, divorce, any of these matters.
Right. Amber, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah,
on how these bills could have been debated differently, do you think? Or would the women MPs have been just towing to the party line?
Yes, of course. I think there are two problems here. First, of course, how we look at the functioning of the political parties, because all the political parties, to be fair, works in a quite centralized manner, and all the decisions, starting from, let's say, ticket distribution to party whips in parliament, in terms of what kind of party position they would take in certain debates, all are very centrally decided by the party. And most of the time, these political structures are very much male dominated. So even if we see a little bit increase in political participation of women, genuine political agency of these women leaders is something that possibly needs much more breathing space for them to actually participate more independently. That's true for all MPs, but categorically for women, because most of the decision-making structures are very much male-dominated. I think that is one part of the story. And the second aspect, which Mr. Kidwai also mentioned, is about in the last few years, we have seen that there is quite a bit of increase in the woman-led schemes, welfare schemes, right? So which are very much directed towards categorically towards women population, right? Every state is doing it, center is doing it, all of that. So in that sense, there's an increasing recognition of women as an independent political constituency. That's something I think there is some degree of political unanimity around that aspect, that yes, we need to focus on women as a distinct political constituency. But whether and that of course is giving them some sense of political empowerment, economic empowerment, and all of that, and also some sense of political
not enough
agency in
from
that sense.
political parties.
Yes. So that's the most interesting disjuncture here, that they are becoming more politically aware and politically mobilized, but that is not translating into their greater participation in everyday electoral politics. So I think that's the conundrum here.
What I found, because I covered the entire triple talaq debate in Parliament, and I did speak to a few people, women, not necessarily women, Muslim women MPs, but also one or two. One I think was there in the Rajya Sabha. I think there was a distinct feeling of unease, not over the abolition of triple talaq, which they all agreed was, many Muslim countries have done it, and India actually should have done it earlier. But the entire thing of criminalizing the whole thing, the criminal, the penal sort of provisions that had been made, to put away Muslim men. So I think there was a lot of unease with regard to that. Anyway, it passed the way it did. I don't know how much of that would have been taken on board if there was a sizable presence which said this as much, with a lot of force in Parliament, or created some sort of a pressure group within Parliament. So that is I think, a debate for another day. But in your collection of these 18 women MPs, Muslim women MPs, this is a personal question. Who was the most significant or personally meaningful to both of you? I remember, Rasheed, when we had done an interview on the Scindia's book, the book on the Scindia family that you had done, you said that Vasundhara Raje Scindia was your favorite Scindia. So I want to ask you, who is your favorite Muslim woman MP among the ones that you've profiled?
Thank you. Amber, I'm very tempted to go first. So I would say, all the, these stories are extremely inspirational, and they all have a sort of great story. But Anistullah, found that one lady, her name was Zora Ben Chawla, and she wins from Banaskantha, from Gujarat, plainly sort of mainly a tribal dominated seat. And imagine, this is 1962, Muslim woman getting elected from Gujarat, from a tribal dominated seat. And in the lifetime of Akbar Bhai, who had been, twice been a Lok Sabha MP in 52, 57. They both, the couple dies in 1980s and 1990s. But so Akbar Bhai vacates the seat and gives it to his wife. Lifetime, the male politician, gives a seat to the woman, and woman does well. And there is no sort of, Muslim identity she had. There was no symbolic this thing of either.
She was a nurse, in fact.
Precisely.
Yeah.
She was a nurse, and public service, Gandhian thoughts, and no kind of transaction. They lived very simply, and all kind of, imagine Gujarat, a religious head, a Mahant, talked about how, in a very glowing manner, how good she was and the couple was. So I'm saying this is a story that inspires, and therefore I would request through you, Nistala, and your podcast, that people must have a look at this book, because it has something that makes us feel very proud of our democracy.
Right. And Amber, your turn now. Who's your favorite?
It's a difficult call, but definitely I think two figures are my personal favorite. One, of course, is Maimuna Sultan, because we're talking about 1950s and 1960s. At that point in time, making a mark in parliamentary politics, and the kind of depth in terms of her political imagination. That's fascinating, because she coming to parliament, participating in parliamentary delegations abroad, talking about international affairs, raising very pertinent, very nuanced, very insightful questions, provocative questions in the parliament.
Capital of having come from this,
of course,
strong family of the Begums of Bhopal.
Of course,
so.
of course, the background did matter. Yes. But it's very, very fascinating to see, because, and more importantly, these figures are not absolutely there in the dominant political discourse in the political history. So they a lot of them are now like very much away from the political dominant political discourse. So our effort has been also to bring them through this book into some limelight, which they very much deserve, because their political insights and the political acumen is something which is worth appreciating. And the second figure, which is my personal favorite, is of course Akbar Jahan, uh, because as I already told that despite dynastic privilege, she was subjected to quite formidable political challenges when Sheikh Abdullah was imprisoned, and it was a very very turbulent and difficult phase for them, and she became one of the leading figures in the family to not only manage the affairs within the family, but also participated in the political affairs. When when Abdullah was indisposed, she was out there to campaign and all of that. So I think uh, a very unique sense of political resilience and fighting spirit that these women leaders, at a time when yeah, when patriarchal norms and male dominance in society was much more stronger than today.
Okay.
So kind of fighting all of those and reinforcing their political agency and their sense of individuality in politics is something that is quite inspiring. And I think that's why I would also strongly recommend this book to all the readers.
On this one, I think I'll go with Rasheed's choice. I'm very sorry, but I think the Banaskantha MP's I think grit was something to be seen. I mean, I would have loved to have covered her as a political journalist, but thank you so
You were
much.
not born then.
No, but I would have loved to have covered her had she been around now. So thank you so much to both of you for this lovely book. Rashid, you wanted to say something?
I just want to make a very quick point and a relevant point, not to be a sort of, regionally sort of provocative. But, Nusra, in this book, I realized captured, that Bengal has a very good sort of, thing of tradition of empowering women. And TMC, Mamata Banerjee, 38% of women representation without 33%. And very unconventional. She brings a lot of diversity. You look at Nusrat Jahan, a very unconventional personality, a film actress, and a sort of non-Bengali, speaking, ethnically speaking, and she made it very big, number one actress, number one sort of, politician. So therefore, and the left was very much there for all along and had a very liberal, progressive agenda. But they perhaps thought that, this is religion, this is tokenism, but they missed the bus. Not only in Bengal, but in Tamil Nadu, zero track record of sort of getting a woman elected. So I think in this between lines there is a lot of story and stories that we need to read and learn from it.
There is, and one of the things that one needs to learn from electoral politics and representation is the fact that one needs to be a little blind in terms of working for everybody's good and trying to get everybody into the tent. But even then, one has to parse and see that you make sure that the most marginalized also are included. So it's an eagle view and a worm's eye view, both which political parties need to have. I don't think that our political parties at the moment are thinking in this way. But thank you so much for this book once again. This book is Missing from the House, Muslim Women in the Lok Sabha. Thank you both, Rasheed Kidwai, Ambar Ghosh, for joining me today on Talking Politics. And thank you to the viewers who have joined us. I shall see you next week.